When audiences think of rugged charm, they think of Tom Skerritt. With a soothing voice and distinctive screen presence, Tom Skerritt has delivered some of the most iconic performances in Hollywood history. He's done everything from action-packed roles and science fiction to heartfelt dramas and smash hit comedies, all while demonstrating an impressive range throughout the decades. His roles have left a lasting impact, earning the fan favorite a place as a beloved and versatile actor. So whether he's playing a mentor, a father, or a leader, Skerritt never fails to command attention. Let's take a look at his stellar career by counting down the top 10 Tom Skerritt movies of all time.
Anyone heard his mama?
Nobody laughs at my mama.
Son of a bitch! Ah!
Number 10. Poltergeist 3.
She said we could do it. She said we could beat him! It's over, baby. It's over, darling.
1988's Poltergeist 3 might not be the most beloved entry in the entire franchise, what with it coming after the point the hype had died down around the original. But one thing it certainly has going for it is a lot of strong performances, and amongst those given here by the likes of Heather O'Rourke, Nancy Allen, and Lara Flynn Boyle, perhaps the strongest comes from Tom Skerritt. But then, that should come as little surprise because the character of Bruce Gardner, a man who moves into the infamous Poltergeist house with his family, certainly gives him a lot to work with. So when things start getting spooky, and the spirits unleash their wrath then, he's the perfect person to convey that fear to the audience. Sadly though, this movie almost never saw the light of day at all, and the reason for that was because once principal photography was finished, Heather O'Rourke died suddenly of complications related to Crohn's disease. But after the initial release was delayed, it was decided to put the movie out anyway in her honor.
Carol Ann? Carol Ann!
Number 9. Poison Ivy.
Honey, I'm glad you're awake. You look nice.
Stupid of me.
Another movie in the filmography of Tom Skerritt which doesn't get enough recognition, 1992's Poison Ivy tells the story of a dangerous and seductive teen played by Drew Barrymore who manages to quickly befriend a shy and introverted young girl. And once she's gotten in with this new friend then, it doesn't take long for her to become a toxic figure in the lives of her rich family. What role does Tom Skerritt play here? Well, that would be the role of Daryl Cooper, the patriarch of this rich family. Needless to say then, he quickly becomes a big part of the plot, and the way he does so is by beginning an affair with Ivy, his daughter's new friend. Of course, there's more to it than just that, but giving any more away would spoil things. One thing which is worthy of note, however, is that Drew Barrymore almost blew her chance to get the role of Ivy after missing her first 2 auditions. In fact, it was only when her agent pleaded with the director for her to get a 3rd chance that she managed to do so.
That dress fits you perfectly. You look,
Beautiful.
something like that, yeah.
Number 8. Opposing Force.
You try to kill me, Twan is dead, and I am pulling the plug. I want MPs out here now. That is an order, Stafford.
The 80s were a decade filled with movies about groups of soldiers finding themselves stuck behind enemy lines. After all, this was still only a few years after the end of the Vietnam War. So it should come as little surprise then that 1986's Opposing Force chose to cash in on the trend with its tale of a group of elite military personnel looking to get to safety before the enemy camp can catch up to them in a training mission turned real. As for Tom Skerritt's role in the proceedings, well, he plays Logan, one of these soldiers, and he certainly plays the role for all it's worth. But it's not just him who gets a chance to shine here, as the rest of the cast, made up of the likes of Lisa Eichhorn, Anthony Zerbe, and the legendary Richard Roundtree do as well. Unfortunately for this film, though, it would end up largely being overshadowed in the public eye when it was finally released. And the reason for that was because it came out during the exact same year as a much more well-known military film featuring Tom Skerritt, Top Gun.
Keep your voice down.
Major, how did you get here?
What's going on out there?
Oh, they're after you, Becker and some guards.
Number 7. East of the Mountains.
I'm okay. I'm just fine. I just want to go over the mountains and let the dog run around and walk a little.
Despite being well into his 80s by the time 2021 came around, Tom Skerritt seems to show no signs of slowing down. No, his output remained as consistent as ever. And it's not as if he was slumming it during this period either, as that was the year he starred as Ben Givens in East of the Mountains. What's the story of East of the Mountains? Well, it's that of a man diagnosed with terminal cancer who decides he wants to end his own life and spare himself any further misery. And the way he wants to do this is by heading back to his old stomping grounds of eastern Washington and there finishing things on his own terms. Yes, it's a dark tale, but a strangely heartwarming one at the same time. And it's one that local Seattle resident Skerritt made sure was filmed in the Washington area as part of his agreement in signing up. The way he saw it, if the story wanted to remain true to the source novel, then it simply couldn't be filmed anywhere else.
Go ahead, do it. Shoot. God damn it, shoot! Come on, do it, damn it! Get your goddamn hands off!
Number 6. Night Moves.
I saw the cut on his wrist. It's Peter.
You can't arrest someone for having a cut on the wrist.
Do you have someone you can stay with?
1992's Night Moves may not be a movie which everyone has seen, but once you hear the premise, it's one you immediately want to check out. And that's because the premise is that of a young chess grandmaster who ends up being accused of a series of grisly murders. Did he commit these murders? He claims not. So it's up to the detectives assigned to the case to find out exactly what's going on. And one of those detectives, Captain Frank Sedman, is played by none other than Tom Skerritt. So we get to see him deliver some of his best work here as a man trying everything he can to discover the truth. And while he's doing that, Highlander star Christopher Lambert is playing off of him every step of the way as the accused chess grandmaster. You'd think such a premise would be enticing to audiences then, but as far as America was concerned, this one was not a hit at the time. That said, partially as a result of Lambert's popularity in Europe, Night Moves would prove to be a big success pretty much everywhere outside of the US, including in his motherland of France.
Oh, what the hell are you doing grabbing that phone?
Sorry.
Anything?
Nothing.
At number 5, we have Fighting Back.
We understand how you feel. We know what your
You
problem
understand nothing. Now, it's the reality of my life. My wife is on one floor and my mother's on the other.
Along with military films, the 80s were a goldmine for fans of movies about vigilantes taking matters into their own hands. And it's that latter category which 1982's Fighting Back falls into. After all, it's the tale of an Italian-American man, played by Tom Skerritt, who leads a neighborhood patrol looking to clean up the streets of Philadelphia from the rampant crime besieging it. As with all these movies, though, at a certain point, the audience is asked to question whether or not what the vigilantes are doing is right, especially when they become accused of racial discrimination against the local African-American community. So rather than just being a thriller, this also serves as a morality play in many ways too. And as it happens, there's actually a real-life inspiration to Fighting Back, as it was heavily based on the life of Anthony Imperiali, an Italian-American who led a similar rebellion of his own in Newark during the late 1960s. In fact, Imperiali is actually referenced multiple times throughout the course of the movie. Number 4. A River Runs Through It.
Have you considered an advanced degree? The law? Medicine?
No.
The ministry?
1992's A River Runs Through It is a quieter tale than what you might expect from most of Tom Skerritt's filmography, what with it telling the tale of two brothers who come of age during the early part of the 20th century. But that doesn't mean there isn't a lot of meat on the bones here, as a lot happens while they're growing up, including World War I, the Great Depression, and the Prohibition. So it's just as well Brad Pitt and Craig Sheffer bring their A-games as the McClane brothers then, just as Tom Skerritt does in his role as their father, Reverend McClane. Between them, they paint a portrait of a family getting by and living their lives during hard times. What often gets forgotten about this one, though, is that, aside from having plenty of star power in the cast, A River Runs Through It also served as the film debut for a young Joseph Gordon-Levitt. That's right, his portrayal of the younger version of Craig Sheffer's character serves as his first credited on-screen role.
Chickens haven't come home to roost yet, Al. Not bad.
Number 3. MASH.
It's enough for me to have to put up with you two Yankees, but that's...
It may be better known today for the iconic TV show it spawned, but before it ever hit small screens, MASH was a huge hit for famed director Robert Altman. But then, what else would you expect from Altman at this point in his career, as it was arguably during his peak? And the cast he assembled were certainly top tier, with it including names like Donald Sutherland, Elliot Gould, and Tom Skerritt in the role of Captain Duke Forrest. Put all of these elements together then, and you get a timeless classic about the exploits of a medical unit trying their best to patch up injured soldiers during the midst of the Korean War. And as with most Robert Altman films, the production was very loose here, with about 80% of the dialogue being improvised. When it comes to the TV show which spun off from this though, that would not be done the same way. No, it was filmed under more traditional sitcom rules. And for that reason, Altman would notably hate it, even going as far as to call it the antithesis of what we were trying to do.
Doctor! Doctor! You forgot your shingle, doctor.
Number 2. Contact.
I wish the world was a place where fair was the bottom line, where the kind of idealism we showed at the hearing was rewarded.
A movie which was underappreciated upon first release, but which has since gone on to be rightfully heralded as the cult classic it is, 1997's Contact has been labeled one of the most realistic takes on what a first contact story might look like. And a large part of the reason for that is because it was based on a novel by famed astronomer Carl Sagan. Yes, rather than tell us a War of the Worlds style tale, this flick presents alien contact with humanity in a far more logical way, with it happening after Jodie Foster's character, Dr. Eliane Arroway, discovers radio proof of extraterrestrial intelligence. And in terms of what role Tom Skerritt plays, well, that would be Dr. David Drumlin, a colleague of Arroway's. Sadly though, despite being very hands-on with the production so as to ensure things were presented as accurately as possible, Carl Sagan would not get to see the final product as he would die of pneumonia mere months before the film's release.
Monitor the signal is to get the cooperation of other stations. If Dr. Arroway hadn't acted quickly, we could have lost key elements.
Our number 1 pick is Alien.
I don't want to hear it. We don't know that's intelligent. I want to go home and party.
Parker, will you just listen to the man?
Penalty of total forfeiture of shares.
You got that?
When picking the best film to feature Tom Skerritt, how could anything else realistically take the top spot over 1979's Alien? After all, this isn't just arguably the greatest horror movie ever made, it's one of the greatest movies in general, and a defining one of its era. The storyline here is pretty straightforward. After answering a distress call while en route back to Earth, space mining ship the Nostromo finds itself with an unwelcome visitor on board, a deadly xenomorph. And this leads to the crew getting picked off one by one by the alien invader. It doesn't matter if it's Tom Skerritt in the role of Dallas, or the rest of the crew made up of Sigourney Weaver, John Hurt, Ian Holm, and Harry Dean Stanton, amongst others. Everyone is at risk. Of course, as legend tells it though, the cast had no idea what was going to happen during the iconic chestbuster scene. And while this is somewhat false, they'd read the script so had an idea what was coming. No one had any idea just how gruesome it was going to be. And this meant their shocked reactions were indeed genuine.
Look, I just run the ship. Anything that has to do with the science division, Ash has the final word.
How does that happen?
It happens, my dear, because that's what the company wants to happen.
And there we have it, the top 10 Tom Skerritt movies of all time. No doubt you have your own list, so be sure to let us know in the comments below. Also, don't forget to subscribe to our channel and get alerted of our next video. We'll hope to see you soon.